I'm Brett Bursey, and I'm the executive director of the South Carolina Progressive Network for the last 29 years, and have known Jim a little longer than that. Jim represented the Committees of Democracy and Correspondence when we started the network in 1996, and he'd been with us right up until he transitioned. And but he's still with us. He's still with us. The things that Jim taught me, things I heard Jim talking about, are things that are still informing me on a regular basis. One of my favorite, but very difficult to use publicly, statements that I used from Jim to help me unpack dialectical materialism was education is the placenta of the state. That has become so much more tangible of a reality of the juxtaposition of material reality and fake reality as we move into this period of neo-Confederacy in South Carolina, where history that they used to suppress is now being declared illegal. And so the idea of education being the placenta of the state also is telling me that the lack of civic education in this state and in this nation has led to a complete lack of understanding about a two-party system that's not in the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence, run by corporations that were prohibited from having anything other than a short lifespan up until the 1850s. So the two things that are destroying democracy, or have already destroyed democracy, in my estimation, the two-party system and corporations are running the show. And I've been radically involved, Marxist training, et cetera, for a long time now. And Jim's teachings are still helping me understand the reality that I face on a regular basis. And thank you, Jim. And I want to share that with people. I was unable to make the commemoration of his 100th birthday, but Jim did amuse me one time when, or more than once. But I want to share one thing with you. In 2016, the Progressive Network has an organizing school called the Majeska School, and we were recognizing the 70th anniversary of the Southern Negro Youth Congress, which Majeska Simpkins was a senior organizer from 1939 until the organization was destroyed by the federal government in 1949. And Jim, I had called Jim and asked him if he would come up to this thing by the Southern Negro Youth Congress. And there were CCDS people and uh, Communist Party people involved. And I knew Jim came out of the Communist Party into Committees of Correspondence for Democracy and Socialism. And Jim also said the same thing my friends from CP said when I asked them, what's the difference between these two organizations? And they would say, whether they were CP or CCDS, the other group is the intellectuals. But Jim told me he couldn't come up to this event in Columbia from Charleston. He was an old man and he quit driving. I get to the chapel at Benedict University where W.E.B. Du Bois gave the keynote speech for this conference that was organized in 1946 by Majeska. And I said, Jim, what are you doing there? You said you couldn't come. And he looked at me and he said, well, when you get a call from Dorothy Burnham, who's 103 years old, and drove from New York to the conference, and she called Jim. And Jim said, when you get a call from Dorothy Burnham, you can't play the old folks card. And so the 95-year-old, I think at that time, showed up and was with Dorothy Burnham, the 103-year-old, and Jim couldn't play the old folks card. And so, Jim, don't try and play that anymore. We got your number. We're still learning from you. We love you, brother.